Good day and welcome to SCO BRICS Insight, where we talk about what's going on in the world of the BRICS. Well, just over a week has gone by and we're now in a position to ascertain precisely how long it can take an idiot in the West to understand something relatively simple. It's just over a week since Vladimir Putin gave the collective West his peace proposals. To anybody with any common sense, it's become apparent that the plan for resolving the military conflict in the Ukraine, which was rejected instantly, could and should become the beginning of the peace process. Furthermore, the few conditions that Putin has reinforced have concrete foundations. Now, one of the leading American publications, the American Conservative, which represents the interests of some of the few realists and pragmatists that remain in the West, yesterday published two policy articles which addressed both the Western elite and the Russian leadership. Now, the first article, which is entitled "The Biden Administration Has No Vision for Victory in Ukraine, and This is One of the Reasons to Start Negotiations." And the article, it acknowledges that one of the primary causes of the conflict in Ukraine is the West's persistent disregard for Russia's interest and the numerous warnings that it gave that Ukraine's accession to NATO is unacceptable to Russia. The article cites a statement by NATO Secretary General Nato Stoltenberg in the autumn of 2021. The Russian President Vladimir Putin sent us a draft agreement on non-NATO expansion. "We did not sign it," he said, and he initiated a conflict to prevent the emergence of a new and hostile NATO member on his borders. So at least the idiot Stoltenberg acknowledges that Russia didn't actually want to invade and did everything to prevent it, but was rebuffed by the collective idiots in the West who were hell-bent on conflict since they instituted the Maidan coup in Kiev in 2014. That coup, so famously coordinated by Victoria Feck, the EU Nuland, whose objective was taking the Crimean naval base in the Black Sea for NATO, was foiled. Now, since then, they've been arming and training the Ukraine for 10 years, smarting for a real full-scale war for Russia, and they hope that the Ukraine would prevail, take back the Crimea, but not only that, but destroy the Russians militarily. Obviously, given the failed counter-offensive, the destruction of all their expensive equipment they supply to the Ukraine, make this only yet another military fantasy, erotic fantasy of the US neocons. Now, the second article is actually quite interesting. It's entitled "Putin's Peace Proposal, Acceptable or Not?" Now, it concludes that for Ukrainian Western leaders to reject Putin's peace plan out of hand was a seriously misguided decision that it requires immediate correction in the hope that its reconsideration is not too late by him. Now, the two articles both make similar arguments for the start of urgent peace negotiations, and they also both cite the following points. The persistently declared goals by Kiev, at the suggestion of its current puppet masters, include the return of the Crimea and Donbass. Point 2. The removal of Putin from power and regime change in Russia. Point 3. They both claim that these goals are long-rejected fantasies. Yeah, that's true. I mean, Russia, despite everything, has a strong economy, authoritative leadership, China support, and a large population and army. And its military-industrial complex are all working at full strength. Now, Zelensky's promised new offensive, set against the backdrop of its manpower disaster, is unlikely to succeed. I mean, who controls Donetsk, Lugansk, Kherson and Zaporozhye is not really a concern for us, say the neocons in the US, or at least the conservatives. I mean, time is against the Ukraine and the West, so it's important to secure the best possible deal now, as the conditions will probably get much worse in the future. I mean, this point's quite interesting. It's absolutely certain that Kiev will not be in a stronger negotiating position than it is now. Well, it's actually quite weak now. It's in the interest of Europe and the United States to end this war as quickly as possible. And this will require serious negotiations with Russia. Now, this is the funny bit. Russia's been asked to postpone the introduction of its Plan B with even harsher consequences for the Ukraine and the West, and not to pay attention to the current categorical refusal of the current Western leaders to negotiate. Now, this is because in November, a new president might appear in the White House, and in Europe, new heads of state with more realistic positions on the conflict and the settling of it. Now, it's worth noting that this idea has been endorsed by the current Prime Minister of France, Gabriel Attal. Now, he stated that if the right-wing National Rally, formerly the National Front Party, comes to power following the parliamentary elections, this will result in significant changes within the country and internationally, including the cessation of a significant part of the financial aid and military aid to the Ukraine. And this viewpoint is shared by the French politician and architect of Marine Le Pen's success, Florian Philippot, who's written that Western countries should cease providing financial assistance to Kiev and the Ukraine should return as quickly to the negotiating table as it can on the basis of the Istanbul agreements that were reached 2 years ago. However, in my opinion, that is serious wishful thinking, as the Istanbul agreements are now consigned to the dustbin of history, and the person most singularly responsible for putting them in the dustbin was the buffoon Boris Johnson. Yes, it was he who was sent to Kiev to convince Zelensky that the West would give him all the toys and money he needed to vanquish the evil Russians, so he had to reject the Istanbul agreements and everything would be wonderful. I mean, these agreements have now actually been published in the New York Times and have illustrated how fair and balanced the Russians were. I mean, they also show that the West and Zelensky were fools, as they will not get anything close to those agreements now. I mean, a similar stance is now being taken by politicians in other countries who, in the wake of the lame duck epidemic represented by the heads of the UK, Germany, France, Canada, Japan, may soon be replaced by the refuseniks and begin negotiations with Russia. I mean, Russia, of course, has heard the cautious calls by some of these forces in the West for negotiation and say, well, let's not get too excited. I mean, after all, Putin remembers being lied to by the German Chancellor Angela Merkel and the French President Hollande over the Minsk agreements for over 4 years. Although it does seem that some influential people in the West are gradually changing their positions, with rumours going around that Putin's peace plan is a genuine breakthrough. However, Moscow's peace proposal has the potential to benefit even a reduced Ukraine with the right support from the West, they say. This could be similar to the transformation of South Korea after 1953, or West Germany after 1945. However, it may prove that Putin's proposal are not as viable as were first thought, and there'll be no return to the peace plan that was previously discarded. Instead, there will be new conditions negotiated on the ground, as Russia cannot and will not wait for any changes in the attitudes in the West. The Russian leadership is successfully and consistently creating a new world order, plus a new economic and political reality. Just look at the results of Vladimir Putin's visits to North Korea and Vietnam in the past few days, plus the queue of countries waiting to join the BRICS, etc. And that's while he's simultaneously strengthening his country, its army and its economy. As the American Congressman Michael Waltz admitted, Russia's selling more oil and gas and commodities in Asia, around Europe and Latin America and other parts of the world than ever. And the world's undergoing a profound transformation which includes implications that are not favourable to the West. So it seems like the idiots may have recognised the value of the proposal that declined last week, although it might find itself still at a disadvantage tomorrow. Now, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you've enjoyed this video, you can help me fund the channel and the website SCOBRICSinsight.com by clicking on the thanks button at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for being with me, and I'll see you all again soon. Thank you.